you have been giving yourself negativity and anger and resentment and shame and fear, then the moment you get squeezed, the moment life brings you a challenge, that's going to be what comes out. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a great day. We are talking about quality time with yourself. The Dalai Lama said, if you feel burnout settling in, if you feel demoralized or exhausted, it is best for the sake of everyone to withdraw and to restore yourself. That's what the Dalai Lama said. The Dalai Lama, the one who's the most enlightened, kindest, most wonderful, compassionate, empathetic person that ever lived, arguably. The Dalai Lama said, it is best for everyone that you withdraw and restore yourself. And so my question to you today is, what if taking time for yourself, being selfish with time for yourself, quality time with yourself, is what's best for everyone else? So today's episode is really great for anybody who's in healthcare, who has dedicated their lives to service, anyone who is caring for a sick loved one, someone who is dying, anyone who is a compassionate parent or a compassionate daughter or sister, anyone who really cares to do their best for somebody else. This episode is for you because just like the Dalai Lama said, you have to take care and restore yourself in order to be that phenomenal person for someone else. Quality time, taking the time for yourself. It's the ultimate of self-care. You know, self-care has taken on this really big phenomenon in our country in terms of selling products and trying to get people to do things, and there's almost a little bit of pressure. We've talked about this before, how there's pressure to do self-care, and what is self-care really? And you know, the self-care that is the most rewarding and the most impactful on your life and on the lives of the people around you is taking quality time for yourself, finding time to be quiet by yourself. It's surprisingly difficult for high-achieving men and women to be comfortable with themselves, alone with themselves. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about finding quality time with yourself and only with yourself. Can you find a place in your day to be by yourself and with your own thoughts? And can you give yourself permission to do that regularly? And can you find a way to be comfortable with yourself? Because it's only from that place that we can start to understand who we are and understand our relationships of the people around us and come to a better understanding of what our purpose is in this life. And it really requires that quality time. And why I keep using the word quality time is because it's one of the foundations of the 5 love languages that we know in terms of strengthening relationships with other people. You know, those 5 love languages we've talked about before on the podcast: quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, and physical touch. Quality time strengthens and exemplifies love with other people. It's what creates that understanding in a relationship, in an intimate relationship, or even in relationships within your office, with team members that you are leaders of, or even with your children, and definitely with your parents and with your siblings and your friends. But finding quality time so that you can express that love to and with yourself is actually imperative before we can even begin to share quality time with somebody else. So often we think of work-life balance, and we think that when we're not working, we need to be with our families. And that's what establishes work-life balance. But what we're missing is this most important aspect of finding the strength and the permission to have quality time just with yourself. So there are two aspects of quality time with yourself. What does it look like? Number one, focusing on your internal experience. So that means asking yourself questions such as, how do I feel today? Or what are my dreams? Or where am I finding the most joy and happiness in my life? What are things that are concerning me? Where are areas of my life that I want to grow in? That internal understanding, getting to know yourself better, getting to love yourself when you're asking yourself these questions. And the second part of quality time with yourself is actively caring about yourself. Because remember, we're talking about this as a love language. So as you're sitting there having quality time with yourself, finding quiet and putting away all the noise, how are you responding to those things that are coming up for you? Are you doing it with caring and love? And can you maybe change the language that you're using with yourself when you find that you actually have a habit of beating yourself up or being negative to yourself? So, for example, when you take the moment and you say, well, what is it about my life or my situation that's feeling uncomfortable to me right now? And the answer comes up, and you realize that one of them is maybe how you responded or how you acted or words that you used towards someone, and you're feeling like it might have hurt their feelings. Instead of beating yourself up about it, giving yourself compassion and honoring that this was a recognition that you had within yourself, and now you have the power to choose differently. Do you see the difference? Can you imagine yourself more as a compassionate friend sitting and talking to your best friend in that moment and seeing that when she's sad about something or feeling negatively about something, you would never add on the guilt and the shame to make her feel worse, but rather you'd give her the strength to see something different and compassion and forgiveness of what is in the past, and now honoring the opportunity to move forward in a new way. So those two aspects are so critical to quality time with yourself, focusing on the internal and then having that compassion and love for yourself. Another really important thing about finding quality time for yourself is making sure that you're putting aside distractions and obligations and expectations. So it does mean making time. It means scheduling it into your day. It means intentionally putting it in your day. If you think about it, it's taking that nice inhale so that you can exhale, feeding your soul first so that you can help everyone else. We all know that analogy. We've talked about it so many times on this podcast of putting on the oxygen mask first so that then you can help the friend next to you or your daughter next to you when they need oxygen. This is an intentional practice on a daily basis. I was listening to this great interview with Wayne Dyer over the weekend, and I love the story, and I think it's so apropos to what we're talking about today. He was talking about what we imagine we get when we squeeze an orange. So if you picture just an orange, holding an orange in your hand, and when you squeeze that orange really hard, what's going to come out? Is it sometimes apple juice? Sometimes grapefruit juice? No, it's always orange juice. Orange juice will always be the thing that we squeeze out of that orange. Does it matter who's squeezing the orange? No, it doesn't matter. Does it matter what time of the day we're squeezing the orange? Is it different at noon? Or is it different in the night? Or is it different in a different country or in a different social climate? Is it different whether that orange is old or young, or whether that orange has just gone through a breakup or that orange is going through a stressful period in their lives? No. Every time you squeeze that orange, you're going to get orange juice out of it. It's never going to be any different. And the reason why this analogy is so powerful is because we will always squeeze out or respond or react with what we've been feeding ourselves, what we've been putting in ourselves. So if all day you have been giving yourself negativity and anger and resentment and shame and fear, then the moment you get squeezed, the moment life brings you a challenge, that's going to be what comes out. And so making a daily intentional practice of feeding yourself compassion and understanding and respect and forgiveness and love is such an important practice, so that when that moment comes, when everything happens, when the proverbial poop hits the fan, what are we going to be squeezing out of ourselves? What's going to be landing when someone comes at you out of the blue with an argument, when a team member comes at you with a complaint, when your son or daughter comes at you with something uncomfortable, or your husband or your wife or your mom, or a moment in time when there's just a little bit more stress on you? How can you be prepared for those moments? By intentionally giving yourself the space and time to do so. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you didn't get into business to be miserable. The problem is that people feel that if their business gets busier, if they start becoming more successful, that happiness will eventually set in. But it can actually get worse. This is why I created the Business of Happiness Prosperity Coaching. In this one-on-one coaching, we look at how to redefine success on your terms and re-find the joy and the passion in your dream. Visit me at thebizofhappiness.com and become the happiest business owner you know. A friend of mine sent me a picture the other day of her sitting with a book and a plate of cheese and crackers, and it looked like a beautiful background behind her. And she was just sitting down, indulging in the moment, and it was very clear from the picture that she was by herself. So, Elizabeth, if you're out there, you know that that photograph really resonated with me, that was such a beautiful expression of that moment that you were giving to yourself. It was very clear she wasn't doing this for anybody else. She wasn't reading the book to someone else. She wasn't feeding the crackers to anybody else. This was a moment just for herself. And so that's something that quality time for yourself can look like. It's that refueling, that refeeding of your soul. And it comes back to the question that I asked at the beginning of the podcast. What if taking time for and with yourself, quality time for yourself, is what's best for everyone else? And the truth is, it is. Finding that space to restore. And don't be afraid if you've never done this before, if you've never been alone with your own thoughts. That's intimidating for lots of people. In fact, so many of us find ourselves running to escape ourselves. That's one of the biggest problems that I find with high achieving men and women, is that we create escapes. At the end of the day, you're so exhausted, you've been pulled in so many directions, so we escape outside of ourselves. We find vices and refuge in things outside of ourselves. And while all those things are very positive, could be very positive to enjoy life in a different way, using it as a resource to escape is always negative. And it's only good when you can bring yourself back to yourself and remind yourself of who you are. So why is it so important? Number one, to be able to discover yourself, to find out who you are, so that you can love yourself again and realize that you really are different from everyone else. There is no one like you. So of course you're going to think differently and have different dreams and react differently and have different aspirations. And to honor that about yourself. You don't have to be like anybody else. You get to just be who you are. The question is, who are you? That's a great question to take in that moment when you're giving yourself some quality time. Who are you? Who am I? I ask myself that question every single day, because this is a practice that I've learned has so much value and so much strength that I make time for this. This is one of my non-negotiables in my day. It doesn't take a lot of time, but I make sure I find time by myself every single day. And you might say to me, Tarryn, this is crazy. I'm a mom. I have a business. I've got so many things on my plate. There is no way I can find time to myself every single day. Sister, I'm living proof that you can. And the value of it is hugely compounding. Because when I don't take the time to myself every single day, that's when I start to see the slipping of the other things in my life. I start to see the fractures either in my health or in my business or in my relationship with my family or in my relationship with my husband. And taking time for myself is actually at the core of rebuilding each and every one of those aspects of my success. So personally, I do this at early in the morning, the first thing in the morning. I take time alone by myself. And what I really have to do is put the cell phone aside. Let's talk about the white elephant in the room. Being alone by yourself does not mean scrolling on Facebook or Instagram. It means literally putting away all distractions and being alone with just yourself. Once again, imagine that best friend, if you will. If you were giving her all your attention, would you have a phone in your hand? Would you be planning your day? No, you would give her your full attention and put all those other distractions aside. And you deserve that from yourself as well. You deserve that attention. The second reason why it's so important to take time for yourself is because it's caring for yourself and your well-being. It's a check-in before things get out of control. It's just a little bit of a scan. How are you doing today? Before you go out there and squeeze out that orange juice that's negative orange juice. Checking in with yourself and maybe seeing if you need a little mindset shift. If you wake up one morning and you're like, man, I'm in a terrible mood, asking yourself, what's bugging me? And then addressing it so that you can be your very best self and bring your best self in the rest of your interactions with people who you're going to be speaking with during the day, and especially as a business owner and a business leader. Number 3, taking time alone for yourself empowers you to be more comfortable with yourself and more confident in who you are. One of the things that so many people have asked me is, how do I become more self-confident? How do I love myself more? This is one of the ways. You get to know yourself better, as you would with a relationship. How do you love someone more? You get to know them better. You ask them questions. You find out about their past. You find out about what hurts them and what lights them up, what brings them joy and what wounds them. So taking the time to find those things out about yourself, isn't it fascinating that we could be 45 years old, I think that's how old I am, 45 years old and never have done this in your whole life? Isn't that interesting? And if your answer is, oh my gosh, I've never asked myself that question, don't beat yourself up about it. You're not alone. So many people have never taken the moment to ask themselves those important questions so that they can learn to be more comfortable with who they are. Oh, that triggers something in me. Oh, that really lights me up. Oh, I'm different from other people and I'm okay with it because I understand myself better. And then you can take the next step into self-confidence because you are honoring who you are. The fourth reason why taking time for yourself is so critical is because it actually increases productivity and creativity. So all you business owners out there will light up when you hear this statement, but that is the truth. When you take time, quiet time by yourself, introspective time, it actually makes you more efficient in the rest of the day. So even just carving out that small little section of time in the morning actually makes you a more productive person, a more efficient person during the day in your business. And it also increases your creativity. because it allows you to, once again, be more comfortable and confident in exploring your own intuition. Number 5, biggest one, decreases stress. When you build up over time these moments every day and you have a reliability on your own self to take time and compassion for yourself on a daily basis, even if it's for 5 minutes. I like to do more like 20 to half an hour, 20 minutes to half an hour, but I know that that has decreased my stress level in my life enormously. I used to have this perspective that everything was happening to me. And this language we hear all around us. Why is this happening to me? Why are you doing this to me? She hurt my feelings. And the truth is, no one can hurt your feelings. You are the one who feels your feelings. So getting in touch with yourself on a daily basis actually decreases that stress and that overload. And then the 6th reason of why it's so important to take this quality time by yourself, and this is what the Dalai Lama was talking about in that quote at the top of the hour, and that is it actually improves your relationships. Because when you know yourself better, you can be more present for someone else. When you have confidence in who you are and what matters to you, you can take better care of other people because now you have more to bring. When you love yourself and you honor yourself and you value yourself, you bring more value in every interaction that you have. It actually strengthens relationships because now I'm not waiting for you to figure out what I want. I'm not waiting for you to figure out what makes me happy or makes me sad. I already know. I already know what I need. And if I don't, I know tomorrow morning I'm going to sit and figure it out when I take some quiet, quality time with myself. This is one of the biggest secrets of great leaders and phenomenal business owners who make enormous successes in their empires. It's also one of the great secrets of moms who have fabulous, successful families, very independent children, and wonderful relationships. Anyone you speak to in terms of the relationship realm or the parenting realm will tell you the importance of taking time to yourself. So why don't we do that? My biggest tip for you is to schedule it in every single day. If that seems overwhelming, start with it once a week, but make it non-negotiable. Make it an important meeting, just as you wouldn't break a date with your best friend at the last minute. Don't break a date with yourself. Make that a non-negotiable, important moment in your day or in your week. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. It could look like reading a great book, as it did with my friend Elizabeth. It could look like going on a hike. It could look like going for a run. It could look like taking a bubble bath. All of these things are self-care, as long as you keep in perspective those first 2 things. Number 1, introspection and asking yourself those important questions, getting to know yourself better. And then number 2, focusing on self-compassion, kind and gentle language, and honoring and loving yourself no matter what comes up. Those are the 2 most important aspects, whether you're doing reading or swimming or hiking or going for a jog. Taking the time and setting the intention that this is your quality time. I'll leave you with this great quote from Stephen Covey. He said, "Be patient with yourself. Self-growth is tender, holy ground. There is no greater investment." Wishing you a spectacular day, and always remember, when you feel good, that's when you can do good. Bye-bye.